This is the Pivotal Running Podcast, and you're listening to Greg Derbyshire,
Chris Grunhagen,
and Marty Wimblom.
And we are three Jackrabbits from two different countries who continue to follow running in the upper Midwest.
And we want to discuss important topics, inspiring stories, and extraordinary performances in running. Welcome back to the Pivotal Running Podcast. I'm your host, Marty Wimblom. And today we have the honor and privilege to talk with one of the most feared Jackrabbits in SDSU history, Chase Cayo. Chase led the Jackrabbits to win 4 Summit League cross-country conference team championships, and he had 2 cross-country individual champions and is the second fastest 10,000-meter runner in South Dakota State University history, with his recent 29:19 performance at the 2021 Drake Relays. Thanks for being here with us, Chase. How's everything going?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Marty. It's going well. Just kind of relaxing this summer, working at the kids club, coaching youth track, coaching youth running club, and then coaching boys high school cross country. So doing a lot of coaching and working with kids, but I got a degree in education, so that's what I got my degree in. So I'm enjoying it. Summer's off to a good start. Still running. So yeah, all is well, and it's good to be on here. So I'm excited.
No, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate you agreeing to come on, and looking forward to hearing about your journey. Can you talk to us about how running started for you?
Yes. So I like any middle school guy that plays basketball. I had the dreams of making the NBA. So I was soccer and basketball growing up. Eventually dropped soccer and then just stuck with basketball. I even got into 43 Hoops Academy, which is it's a academy or basketball academy out in Hopkins, Minnesota. It's ran by, I forget the guy's name. He's an old Minnesota Timberwolf. He competed in the slam dunk contest. So, and then it was kind of, my coaches were G League or D League guys. And so all I could do was shoot. I got really good at shooting. Got the gooseneck is what my coach called it. And now if I try to shoot a basketball, it's horrendous. So that's one goal now that I'm done with collegiate sports, is to get my shot back. But yeah, and then just with basketball, I was in middle school and my mom's like, you can't do nothing. And so she said, you like to run, do cross country. I was like, okay, I'll do it. I did it. I liked it in middle school. It was still like, okay, well, let's get me in shape for basketball. So that's good. Kept doing basketball, got into track. Eventually I got into 8th grade, ran a 5:05 mile. I didn't know how good that was. I ate a hot dog right beforehand, and I just ran off sheer trying to win conference in middle school. And then Coach Greeno for STMA, going into freshman year, they're like, okay, Chase, 5:05 is pretty good. We think you can make varsity right out of the gates. Just come to a summer run. And so I was like, okay, sure. So I go to a summer run. I get 2 miles in, maybe. I had a banana and cereal right before, and I ended up throwing that all up. And I was like, this sucks. This is awful. I don't want to do this anymore. And so Greeno bikes back with me, and I'm running. He's like, Chase, not every day is going to be like this. Just stick with it. And I said, yeah, sure, Greeno, I'll be back Wednesday. I didn't come back for the rest of the summer. I hardly ran and just kept playing basketball. And then I got to high school, and then of course found a passion for it. I started out on JV for a little bit just because I wasn't running. And then by the end of the season, I think I was second or third with a 17-something 5K. And so that kind of got me into it, at least as far as high school goes.
So can you talk a little bit about the St. Michael Albertville running program? I mean, it seems obviously they've got something special going there.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't, in high school, I think the most I got up to was, I don't even think if I touched 40, it was once. My longest run would maybe be, if I got over an hour, I was like, this is super long. And so I think our longest run was we ran from Buffalo to St. Michael, we did kind of a football relay where we run the football from one stadium to our home stadium, and then kind of run in right before kickoff, and then the whole school and communities there. So that was always fun. But it's not too intense. I mean, Coach Greeno, I mean, he's a wrestler, and then he always jokes, tell people your coach is a fat little wrestler. His main background was in wrestling, and he's a phenomenal cross country coach because he did run a little bit in Jamestown when he had extra eligibility. He was a steepler, ran cross country. He loved it, and so his big thing was just keeping us ready for the next level, not overtrained. I mean, so really we're running 20 to 30 miles a week. Not anything fast. I mean, I don't think I ever broke 7-minute pace unless it was a workout. I think a lot of it was from 7 to 7:30. And yeah, just kind of kept doing that. And that's just really how that's all I knew. And so just ran on all hearts is what Coach Crocker would always say is, Chase, you're kind of just a runner that runs on all heart. And so kind of just always ran with a chip on my shoulder and tried to compete the best I could. And I think it was just a lot of talent at the end of the day. And I think when we got fourth my senior year in cross country, our seventh guy ran more than I did. And so we had a lot of talent, and I think we had a pack of 16-30 guys. So yeah, just kind of a lot of pack runs, and then just working together and kind of running for each other. So STMA doesn't do anything kind of out of the ordinary. It's just, I think a lot of kids that buy into what Coach Greeno is doing love the social aspect of cross country, which I think is great for high school kids, and just enjoying the sport and seeing kind of where we could go. So, yeah.
So I hear you'll be actually coaching at STEMA this coming up?
Yeah, STMA.
Yeah,
STMA.
Yeah.
So I was named boys head cross country coach this past spring. And it's kind of, Coach Greeno's kind of been talking to me about it for the past few years, saying, Chase, when you're done, would you have interest in taking over? And I've always had an interest in teaching and coaching in the area. And so when it finally kind of presented itself, I kind of jumped all over it. And so, yeah, I'll be the boys head cross country coach. Our boys and girls program split a few years ago since we were getting so big. I think my senior year, there was 120 kids total. I think there was 70 girls and 50 guys. So it was getting pretty big. So yeah, I'll be the boys head cross country coach this fall.
No, it's exciting to take over the program that you were a product of. And,
yep.
And so what advice would you give to any high school runner?
Yeah, I would say, the big thing I think is to not, especially now with just Strava and social media, not to get caught up in what everyone else was doing. I think now with high school kids, it's, what is this guy doing that I'm not doing that I need to do? Because I don't think there's one size fits all. So I think the big thing would just be kind of focus on yourself, kind of trust in what you're doing, do what works for you, not necessarily what works for others. I think it's good to experiment and see what does work for you, but not getting caught in that comparison. I would say to have fun. That's the big thing in high school sports, is just go out there, have fun. A lot of kids can get in their heads and kind of psych themselves out. I think you just got to go in there and compete, and, whatever happens. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. A little pressure is good, but when you start playing mind games with yourself, that can get dangerous. I would say to, take the easy days easy. I know that's a kind of a cliche, kind of everyone says that, but many times I think we can overtrain and just kind of keep putting our bodies through a little too much. And then at the same time, on those workout days, it doesn't need to be a race. I think a lot of high school kids can also just race. I know even my own athletes, we were doing a run, and it was a 4-miler. And then at the end, a few kids just take off with a quarter mile to go. And I said, hold on, we're not training for mile split kick of the week here. Let's just, it's okay right now. We can just kind of have runs, build a base. So yeah, just kind of know what the workout is for. Don't slack on the stretching. Don't slack on the sleeping. That's an easy thing that even I think after high school that I did was kind of okay. Didn't stretch or didn't sleep as much. diet's important too. I got by on eating a lot of McDonald's after races. I think Rod kind of pokes at me a lot, even in college about that. So just eating healthy. But junk food after a race, I guess, isn't the worst thing in the world as a high school kid. So, those would be kind of just the big things that I come to mind right now, as far as advice goes.
No, I appreciate sharing a bit of advice there to other high school athletes that are, logging in some miles this summer, trying to, compete at the highest levels. What were you considering? What other schools were you considering before you signed at South Dakota State University?
Yeah. So South Dakota State kind of was just with Brendan Sage going there. And him and I were good friends throughout high school. He ran at STMA in my first 2 years. We made it to state together in cross country sophomore year. And then in track, I qualified in the mile, and he also qualified. So we won 2 in our section, won 2 in a lot of conference races. So that was a lot of fun. So we built a bond pretty quick. He kind of was a mentor, kind of showed me what high school cross country and high school running was about. So definitely helped me in my high school career and early college career. And so, just seeing him at South Dakota State and how he developed, that helped me a lot, just kind of get South Dakota State on my radar. So I remember talking to Rod pretty early on in the process. Eau Claire was another big one, D3. By senior year, I kind of had the dream of running Division I, but I did go on a visit there. Northern Iowa was another one I had visited and talked to. Iona out in New York, they were a top 10 Division I team at the time. Talked to them quite a bit. Weber State was another one out in Ogden, Utah. Isaac Wood, who he runs the Wood Report, and I don't know if he still does that. He's worked with BYU. He recruited me for Weber State, and his big thing is he knew I like basketball, so he talked to me about Damian Lillard going to Weber State, and so he was a guy that was easy to connect with during that process. Butler was another one that I had talked to quite a bit, and then the other really serious one at the time was Minnesota, University of Minnesota, just being a Minnesota kid, and they were pretty interested. And so by the time it got down to it, it really was between South Dakota State and Minnesota. And the big thing was I went on my official at South Dakota State and just really loved it. I saw the S-Jack that had just been built. I don't know if that was the first year or the second year, but seeing that I was just kind of a wide-eyed high school kid, like, wow, this is really cool. I got along well with Rod, just kind of what he had to say or how he envisioned what I could do in college. That helped quite a bit. Just knowing Sage once again, but also Trevor Capra. I kind of knew Daniel Pettit. So those were 2 other guys and then on my visit, I stayed with all of them and had a great time. So that really helped. And then the U of M, I think they're recruiting I was 5th in the fall in cross country, but I graduated with Joe Klecker was in my class, Joey Dewar, Connor Olson, all 3 of those guys, sub-9 guys in the 2 mile. And I was just a 9:16, 4:20, which I don't think is terrible, but when you got other guys, I think the U of M was kind of focused on them. Shane Strike, another guy who just ran at the trials. So guys ahead of me that they were probably recruiting. So they kind of were, hey, we'll get you on a visit. We're just kind of waiting. And I did say, okay, I'm not going to make my decision until after Christmas. So I think that kind of, made them hold off a little bit too. But I was just kind of working at Reebok one night and I was kind of thinking between the 2. And I was like, well, I really I kept thinking as I was working, it's like, I really loved South Dakota State. And so I was like, it just seems right. Maybe I just call Rod and commit tonight. I actually get a voicemail from the U of M just saying, hey, Chase, we'd love to have you visit. They're trying to set it up. And even after hearing that voicemail, I was like, South Dakota State still feels right to me. So I ended up calling Rod that night and I just committed and said, hey, I want to come to South Dakota State. I think it's the right fit. I'd love to sign. And so that's just how it worked. Just felt right from the get-go. And so, yeah, I had a few schools, but it really just came down to Minnesota and South Dakota State. But I kind of wanted to also I kind of wanted to leave the state too and get a little distance and see how that was. So, yeah, that's kind of all the factors. And then just with teaching, the program, I really like the education program on my visit at SDSU, so that helped quite a bit too. So
After you committed to South Dakota State University and you got on campus there in the fall, what was that transition like from the high school level to, now you're in Division I and trying to get after it?
Yeah, the summer was good. I mean, so I obviously with running 20 to 30 miles a week. I mean, Rod didn't throw me into it, and that was another thing that kind of scared me with other schools, Nebraska, Minnesota, Wisconsin. They all kind of told me, hey, you probably run 70 off the bat. And I said, I mean, I didn't know too much about distance training. I was like, I've only run 20 to 30 a week. 70 is a big jump. So that kind of scared me. Whereas Rod said, we'll start you out 40 to 50 and ease you into it. And so I was like, okay, that sounds nice. So summer, I think I got to 40, 45 by the time team camp rolled around. Maybe hit 50. I don't really remember. So yeah, it was kind of a ease into it. And then we get to team camp and I'm running with the guys pretty fine. I mean, unless they started picking up the pace too much, and then I kind of fell off a little bit and had to run with a different group, whether it be the 800 guys just taking it easy or maybe other freshmen. And then we get to the last day of team camp, and I think we did our long run on Lebanon, and I'm running and we're on our way back, and I kind of feel some shin pain. It felt like what I thought was shin splints at the time. I was like, oh, that's a little weird. The next day was move-in day. I had an off day, so I just took it off. And then the following day after move-in day, we went to go run with me and Connor, my roommate freshman year. We went to go run with some guys. And I'm running over from the dorm, and I had never been injured in high school, so I didn't know what injuries felt like, didn't know, what it was, but I started running and then I'm hobbling. Like I couldn't even put pressure on my right foot or leg without feeling some sort of pain. And so I was kind of jumping, kind of hobbling like this. I was like, this doesn't feel right. And we get to the house and I keep trying. And our GA at the time was Alex Monteferi. And he kind of said to me, Chase, are you okay? And I was like, I don't think so. I can't run without having to jump up in pain. So I was like, he's like, okay, just turn back. And so I turn around, go back to my dorm, text Rod. We kind of cross train for a bit. We don't really know what it is. So we kind of just cross trained and then would try to run. Did that for a few weeks, just wasn't getting better. Missing kind of the first few weeks. And when I came in, talking with Rod, I said, Rod, there's no way, because we kind of talked about, do I want a redshirt or not? And I kind of came in and a lot of guys kind of thought I'd be maybe our fifth guy that year. And I was like, well, I don't want a red shirt. I just want to go 4 years. I kind of thought I was this hot shot. I was like, I can come and compete, contribute right away. So I was like, I'm not going to redshirt. And so I was getting frustrated with not competing the first few meets. And I was like, well, I want to run. So I kept trying to do it. Eventually, like, okay, it's not getting better. Let's get an MRI. It turns out to be a tibial stress fracture. And so that takes me out for, I don't know. I think I didn't start running again till near the end of cross country after the conference meet at home. And that was another kind of big push of trying to keep running because, who knows when the next time we'd host cross country at home. Missed that, kind of built into it. First indoor, I come around, indoor comes. I'm running, competing. Still, I didn't get the fall to get used to any college workouts. So I'm still getting used to college workouts, just kind of getting by with cross training and 40 miles a week. Indoor was okay. Looking back at it now, I think I was a little hard on myself. I was running around what I was running in high school, maybe a little slower in the mile, about the same in the 3K. And I thought, well, why am I not getting better? Because I saw other freshmen getting better. I saw my teammates doing well. I was like, what am I doing different? looking back at it now, it's like, okay, Chase, you were hurt all of fall. Don't get too hard on yourself. Got through indoor, didn't make conference. So that was another kind of, to me, just like, oh, well, what am I doing? I was kind of questioning at that point, is Division I running for me? Even again, just kind of 18-year-old being unfair with himself, didn't kind of know. And then freshman year and outdoor, I was like, well, I have this red shirt now for cross country. I'm not gonna come back for a fifth year just to do cross country. I might as well red shirt outdoor. I was starting to come around in workouts where like, okay, maybe, I was starting to hang up with the top dogs. So it's like, okay, do you want a red shirt, Chase? It's like, I don't know. And then I get a hip injury. And so then I'm kind of limping around out for most of outdoor. I think I ran one race in Fargo. Wasn't very good. I think it was windy, rainy. I didn't even want to run it. I think I ran 4:18 in the 1500, which I don't even know that equates to, but at the time I was down about it. But now Rod always kind of gives me crap for that one, is because that's my only 1500 that I ran on paper. So that's my PR in the 1500. So he'll kind of hold that over my head a little bit. But at the time, that was pretty crushing. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And so that was kind of that was my transition. It was a lot harder than I think others have had, but I think it really benefited me in the long run. Is it kind of woke me up to, this is, what college running is like. And so at the time, though, I just didn't know if I was injury prone or what was going on.
So that's pretty insightful about, sort of the setbacks there in your first year in college. But, what was the transformation then? Did you give yourself a little bit more grace, or, and have more patience in the second year at SDSU? Because you really transformed from that point forward, your running.
Yeah. So, I mean, faith is big with me, always has been in my family. And so I remember kind of after the first year, I was like, do I transfer? Just because I was like, I don't know if Division I, if I can do this. Do I just kind of stop running and just go to school? I don't know. I was just really kind of frustrated, fed up with injuries. And so I just prayed on it. And I said, God, if I'm going to give it another go this summer, because, Rod still wants me here. So obviously, he sees something in me. And I remember freshman year, kind of at our preseason meeting coming into it, he said, Chase, I see you, potentially winning conference championships individually, setting school records, being an All-American. He had a lot of faith for me just coming in right off the gates. That was huge to me. Because just with high school, I was like, I have no idea how good I could be. And I, was all state, I was all region in high school at Foot Locker, but I didn't know how good that actually was. And just when I heard that, he's like, I think you can be a Trent Lusignan or a Joel Reichel. Those were pretty good dudes when I came in. So that gave me a lot of confidence. And even after that first season, I don't think his confidence in me wavered. That helped a lot. And so I just prayed on it and said, God, if this is meant to be, I'm just going to give it my all this summer. Let's see what happens. I went through the summer injury free. And then, it just kind of started to click together. I think having Brendan Sage over the summer helped too, having a guy in town I could run with, as well as surrounding guys. Got in, just kind of competed, kind of just kept my head down, worked hard. And the fall worked out pretty well, just with being finally able to contribute with the team in the top 7. I think Wisconsin was a big turning point, running 25, I think 10 or 20. That gave me a lot. I know it's a faster course, but I was up there with, running with Trevor, running with Brendan. And those were guys that I really looked up to. And I was like, okay, if I can stick with these guys, it just gave me some confidence to kind of keep pushing. And then ended up being our 5th guy, I think, at conference. And that was pretty big, just beating IUPUI, because I know that was kind of the big rival at the time. I didn't know that would be the start of, I think we're on 5 consecutive titles now. So that was really cool to be a part of that. That was special. Kyle Burdick helped me a lot too, kind of pushed me along. Ayuk Kasim was another good guy that really helped me. And I think that's the big thing too. A lot of guys over the summer were just very encouraging to help me keep going. And so, yeah, winning in 2016 helped quite a bit. And then I think we were sixth in the region. And so beating the Gophers was pretty big. I think, Rod kind of beforehand with having a lot of Minnesota guys on the roster, that was kind of the hype up was, we weren't heavily recruited. Some of you weren't heavily recruited by the Gophers. Let's go out there and compete with them because we're just as good as them. And so beating them was pretty big. And I know that year too, it was looking like, hey, if everyone has just their best day, maybe we can make it to nationals as a team. So there was a lot of big motivators, just team-wise, team goals that helped me just kind of get in there and compete. So, yeah.
Okay, Chase, thanks for taking us down the 2016 Summit League Cross Country Championship, and then also the first time that you all took down the Gophers. Now, can you kind of segue into how that track season then went for you, coming out of that very successful first cross country season for you?
Yeah. So again, just kind of keep rolling into indoor. Even talking to even in high school, my coach was like, Chase will probably be pretty good at the 5K. At the time, I thought, hey, I ran 420 in high school. I think I'm a miler. Got into a few miles, and I ran 420 lows in college, and I think that'd be the biggest thing. Is that has always frustrated me is that's the only high school time I haven't beat in college was my mile time. But so yeah, I got into a few miles and was still running 420s. 3K I got down to I think 8:30, and so that was good. I was seeing some progress in the 3K, even if I wasn't seeing too much in the mile. And my training too, I don't think I was training much for the mile as it was 3K, 5K. And so, yeah, I saw some from my first year running 850s and that being really hard to running 830s where that feels, everything's starting to feel more national, feel more fit. That helped a lot. And so we get to the 5K and the big goal was to kind of break 15. And so I just remember kind of hanging on to Brendan's age the whole time, kind of like I was doing in cross country and just seeing where that went. And ended up running 14, I don't remember exactly, 1450 something. And so that really gave me a lot of confidence, get to outdoor. And that was the year too that we were hosted indoor and we were kind of favored to win. I remember that being in a very intense atmosphere. That was a lot of fun, especially getting the chance to compete in that after not being able to compete indoor last year. Conference that was a lot of fun, and it was close right down to the wire. And I remember the 5K I remember Rod being super intense for that 5K, and that got me fired up. And so and it didn't go our way, but I remember running a 1440. I don't even remember what that was either, 1440 something. And so that gave me a lot of confidence that okay, I'm seeing some progress now, unlike last year where running that time probably seems just not possible. So again, just building confidence. And then we got to outdoor. And I was like, Rod, I want to run a 10K. And we were still like, well, we don't know yet, just with my body and everything. But I had been healthy all year. And so we said, well, Mount Sac, we'll give it a go. And so I don't think I ran until maybe I raced a 5K leading up to that, but ran a 10K out in Mount Sac with Trevor. That was a lot of fun. I ended up running 30:25. Again, didn't know how good that was as a freshman, and then I saw our top 10 list, and I think I was a few seconds off. I was like, okay, that's got to be pretty good. And I remember I get back to the hotel and I was like, Rod, my calves are really sore. He's like, what spikes did you run? And I pulled out the Victory Elites from high school that I had. And he's like, oh, you probably should have wore flats because I guess there were more miler spikes. And so again, just one of those young kid things that I just didn't know about running. I was like, oh, well, okay. And I just remember my calves not liking me for about a week. And so get to outdoor conference. I'm kind of got a calf injury at that point. I was kind of limping around. get through the 10K and I scored. Was very pumped about that. And then I ran the 5K. It was super hot out. And I think I ran 16 something minutes. Just couldn't hang on. And then I remember getting off the line and I started crying because I was just like, that was kind of just very frustrated with the outcome of that, and kind of it was pretty hard on myself, took it out on myself. And so I just remember kind of riding back with my parents from Fargo, kind of down in the dumps. And I was like, and they kind of, just reassured me like, hey, Chase, you had a good year. A year ago, you weren't even running. And then, that helped quite a bit, and just kind of made a mental note to myself, okay, this year was good. Ended the year rough, but I definitely want to get a whole lot better. And so that was a big, I think, again, ending on a bad race, I think that was a pretty big motivator for the summer. I was like, next time I run a 5K, it's going to be a whole lot faster than that. And so, again, just kind of going with, taking a low and trying to make the best of it, and just looking for the positives. So, and, just reflecting on having a good year, I think helped to get me motivated for the summer. And just being healthy, I think that whole year helped quite a bit. I could kind of see, hey, I can compete at this level. And so, that's kind of, I think 2016 to 2017 there was a big learning curve and a big jump for me. And that kind of showed me, hey, I can do this. And so that got me to really invest and buy in and just kind of see what I can do. So, yeah.
Yeah, confidence is so huge, isn't it? I mean, it really, if you don't have it, or you're trying to gain traction, and even just whether it be your first years or first, couple years, once you got that, sort of confidence under your belt, you can really make an impact, both individually, but also collectively when you bring it to the team. The 2017 cross-country season was pretty memorable. Can you kind of talk about how your summer into that season went? And then obviously take us through that season. I mean, it was, a very important one, both individually and then also collectively.
Yeah. So yeah, again, summer kind of rolls around, and just coming off last year, I was pretty motivated. We kind of bump up the mileage more. I just ran it. I didn't really I don't even think I worked out that whole summer. The big thing that started to help me realize, because I was kind of starting to get up to 70, 60 to 70 area. And I would go out and do runs, and just whatever felt good, I would roll with. And I think near the end of the summer, a lot of my weeks were anywhere from 6 flat to 630s, just kind of going out and averaging that. And I didn't really think about it. I just ran. If I felt good the next day, I kept going with it. My long runs, doing 15 miles and then closing in 5-minute miles for the last 5 miles would be 540s, 550s. Getting those runs down to sub 6 average. I remember a lot of my teammates kind of text me after they see those on our running twin. They'd be like, Chase, you're pretty fit. And I was like, I think so. I don't really know. So get into a summer road race right beforehand at Hanover. Sage and I have always kind of been running that. I think he'd be fresh out of college at this point. So he was doing workouts, kind of running through the season. He had joined Running Fun. So he's pretty motivated, doing workouts, racing. We get to Hanover. He took us out in the first mile at 4:30, 4:40. I took over the second mile. We're through in 14:40 pace. Come down the last mile, and Sage, if you know Brendan Sage, he's got a crazy kick. You can always bet on that. And so he gets me at the end. I think we both ran 14:40s. That ended up being my 5K PR, faster than what I ran on the track for indoor and outdoor. Roads, kind of some people, distance might be off, whatever. This one's usually pretty honest. Regardless, I was like, well, that's still pretty quick for right now. And so no workouts. I was like, okay, I think I'm pretty fit. We get to the season. I didn't run Fargo. Ran Oz at the U of M. Was up there running with Kyle, and Kyle had just come off his All-American performance, I believe, that spring. in the 1500s. So I was like, well, if I can keep up with Kyle as an All-American, that's got to be a pretty good spot to be in. Still didn't really know. We get to Griak, and that was the year it was, I think, 90 to 100 degrees, whatever it was. I remember them moving races earlier because it was so hot, but we were still at 10 a.m. I hadn't had the best track record for heat running, whether it be races. I remember in high school, there were a few races where I would throw up after just because of the heat, or I would kind of blow up in the heat in college workouts or in college races. So, we were kind of hesitant. Well, Chase, don't go out too hard. The heat might take a toll on you. And so I was like, well, we'll see. And so I just kind of go out with the group, kind of stick with Kyle like I've been doing. We go out. I think I'm in 25th. I'm feeling good by 5K. I don't remember what I went through exactly, but I'm catching guys. Guys are kind of falling back to me. I was like, well, I'll keep going. Kyle had kind of got ahead of me at that point. There was Opsa Ali that I kind of ran with the last 3K. I was like, I remember him in high school being really good. And so I was like, if I can beat him, that's got to be a good day, right? And I think he kind of fell back. I get up with Charlie Lawrence, another gopher, kind of race with him. We get by Kyle, and it's like, well, I just got to keep going then because I got to help the team here. And so I outkick Charlie Lawrence, and I think I get top 15 at Griak. And I was like, well, Griak's a pretty big meet. I was like, that's pretty good. And so, and then beating all the gophers kind of helped my confidence a little bit, just with, again, being a Minnesota guy, not any, just kind of, you develop a little rivalry. It's a friendly rivalry just with being Minnesota guys. And then just, growing up, seeing the Gophers compete. And so, but being on SDSU, obviously with competition, you want to beat them. And so that helped quite a bit, and making the podium at Griak. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do something this year. And so we get to pre-nationals in Louisville. Again, it's kind of hot in the morning. I remember being pretty nervous. Just go out there, ran with Kyle. We get out, and I think 4:30, 4:40. I don't even know. Louisville's a pretty fast course. I just remember kind of people falling and just trying not to get trampled. So that first kind of 2 miles was just purely off adrenaline. It felt like, get through 5K in 15:10, 15:20. And I was like, okay, that's a pretty good pace to be at. We come around, and Rod's kind of yelling at me and Kyle like, hey, these are all regional guys. These are qualifier guys ahead of you. Get with them, run the race, finish with a 24:13 or 12, somewhere there in the 8K. And that's when I started to kind of figure out, okay, something big is about to happen. And so just kind of keep maintaining it. We get to conference. Again, just being at USD. USD had something on the paper about how they were going to win the conference meet. We were defending champions. We knew it wasn't going to be easy. I knew, just talking with Rod and Kyle, that we kind of thought, it doesn't matter which one of us wins, but for us team-wise to win again, we've got to be 1 and 2, ideally. And so I remember Rod kind of saying, hey, first 5K, you two don't lead. Let's have someone else do the leading, kind of keep our pack in it. And then, of course, the other guys have all their strategy, kind of pack run. We get out, we go, we get through 1K, and the pace was just slow. And I was like, I don't like this. I'm going to take over. And I remember just leading. We get through 5. I was by myself for most of it. And then I hear someone kind of come up with 5K to go. I'm like, oh gosh, who's this? And then it's Kyle. And then that helped me, because like, okay, it's a teammate. We're good. We're doing this. And so Kyle and I just work together. Eldon is with us, kind of back there. We just keep pressing. And then I think with 2K to go, I was like, okay, I've led quite a bit. I'm just going to go for it. And so I went, finished first. And that wasn't, even going into the season, it wasn't a goal to win conference. I didn't know that was going to be possible. I was just like, whatever I can do to help the team, I'm going to do it. And so We go 1-2. Alden comes in third. Lucas comes in fourth, I believe fourth that meet. And so that was a big swing, having 3 in the top 5. So we knew we were doing well. And then just having our pack kind of ahead the other packs, we get the repeat in Vermilion. And so that was pretty huge. We move on to regionals at that point. At this point, just with how the season was going, I mean, Rod and I were talking like, hey, top making it as an individual is definitely not out of the question. I have a really good tempo where I think I closed in 4:30 on the gravel roads. I think I ran as fast as I did in the workout as I did at conference in my 8K for 5 miles. So I was ready to go, and I kind of got a calf again, that same calf injury from outdoor the previous year kind of flared up. And I didn't really want to think about it too much. Was kind of limping around. Just like, well, I can't really do much about it now. We get to Iowa State, and I remember Rod sitting me down and at breakfast at the hotel. And he said, Chase, this is, everything's, your workouts have been great. Your races, have gone well. You've been consistent. There's no reason you can't do this. That kind of helped kind of pick me out of my injury slump, but, just got out there. And I mean, there's only so much words can do. Went out there and tried to compete. And I think I was around 50th, just the calf. I could tell pretty quickly that it just was not working correctly. And get done was pretty, again, just kind of stepping away from a race, just kind of down and tough on myself. But, just how the season went, that's not the ending I had wanted, of course, but again, just you had to look back at you got to pick yourself up. And so I kind of gave myself the van ride home, but looked back on the season as a whole. I was like, again, just way better than I was coming in. And so that was something to be proud of. I was like, this is not the end by all. This is only my second year. I still got a few more to go. So I said, let's just try to keep building the momentum and see what the track season brings. So that's kind of how the summer cross country season went. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, you, that was a very memorable, certainly the conference meet with a lot of their pressure, trying to repeat, but also individually trying to do really well, but, collectively trying to win a championship and a lot of different tactics unfolding in a race like that, but certainly come away as a conference champion in 2017 was definitely a successful year. That's great. So 2018, I mean, a new year, but you want to take us through track and lead us into that summer of training. I mean, that'd be great to kind of understand how that went.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we get to indoor and just kind of, again, the 5K in indoor is always kind of where I'm building up to. Had some good 3Ks. I think I ran an 8:24 at Nebraska, which ended up being top 10 at that time. And so that gave me some more confidence in the 3K that, okay, yeah, I can compete in this one too. And so that was good. Again, the mile, I think I ran 4:21 that year. So like, okay, I'll get under 4:20 eventually. So ran a mile. That went well. 5K, we get to indoor classic. And it's just me and Derek Myers, who I've developed a pretty good friendship actually, which has been awesome. Runs for you, Mary. Didn't really know him at the time, but we both go out and we're just kind of going back and forth. I think I led most of the race. He beat me near the end, but I ran 14:29. He ran 14:29 or 28. We were both pretty happy with it. And so I get done with that. And Rod tells me, hey, I think you run 14:10s in outdoor, just based off leading the whole thing and just having the two of us. And so that was a big momentum builder. Get to conference, ran the 3K, 5K double. We're up in Fargo. Wasn't like the year prior where it was, hey, we can kind of win this. So a little team pressure was taken off. But again, you still want to just do well and see where the cards fall. And so we went through the 3K. I think I was sixth. I ran under 8:30, but I was, just with being a conference champion in cross country, it was like, well, why did I podium? But I kind of knew that, 3K, there are guys that have a faster kick than me where I can't kind of wear them down like I do in cross country or a 5K or 10K. So just kind of, got six. I said, I can score. I scored. That was good. My teammates did well. We did what we were supposed to in that event. Came back for the 5K, and Derek Bucklehide took Kyle and I out and led us through the first couple of Ks, and just kind of traded lead with him, and we ended up going 1-2 once again, and I won the conference championship in the 5K, and so that was fun. We both run 14:29 again. So that was kind of helped me is, okay, I've ran 14:29 twice now. Did it on a 200 flat this time. People read into conversions. I'm not too big into those. 14:29 is what I ran. And so, but at the same time, I was like, okay, I think I can run, sub 14:20, hopefully outdoor. We get to outdoor, going to did the 10K out in San Francisco, and I ran 29:41. And so that was a pretty big jump from 30:25, and kind of looked at regional rankings last year, and I was like, oh wow, that would be in regionals. And so, but Rod kind of knew, it's not for sure safe. Trevor and I were both kind of on the bubble with 29:40, so we went for it again at Mount Sac. Leading up to Mount Sac, kind of had a lot of things going. My grandmother had passed away, and so that she was very big in my life. Was my confirmation sponsor, helped me a lot with faith stuff. So a big person in my life for faith, and of course, just a big member of my family. Very close with her, my last living grandparent at the time, and so that was hard. Also had a foot injury after San Francisco. And so that was kind of all and tough. And then it was kind of my grandmother's funeral was the same day as Mount Sac. And so my mom said, grandma would want you to do this. And so she said it was okay if I went to compete at Mount Sac. And so I did. It wasn't the easiest thing to do. But just kind of ran for her. And my foot injury was still kind of there as Achilles, but just kind of pushed through it. And I think, just my grandma, her health, she hadn't been able to watch me in a few years. And so, I was kind of just thinking, she's got the best seat in the house right now. So let's just kind of go out there and give it all we got. And so, I remember we went out in 2:30 for the first 800. Not ideal for 29:30 pace. I was like, there's a bunch of pros in this race. What's going on? Trevor kind of went out, and I was like, well, that was kind of, didn't want to know if I wanted to go with. So just kind of slowly worked on the pace. We get to the last, I think through 5K, we were 14:54 or 53. And I was like, whoa, okay, we're kind of still there. Just kind of kept slowly squeezing the pace down, found a group to run with. The Iowa coach was there. I was running with a Hawkeye, and they said, if you guys want sub 29:40, you got to go now with a mile to go. Just didn't think, just went. And I think I closed in the low 4:30 and ran 29:38. At that time was top 6 in school history. Got me into the top 48 at the time. Was pretty happy with it, just given the circumstances leading into it, and kind of all that was going on. Trevor had ran well too, a few seconds behind. So we both kind of thought, hopefully we're in. We trained for conference, run conference down in Tulsa. That was another thing where it was 100 degrees, super hot, super humid. I remember the 10K got moved to the morning. We run it. We go 1 through 3 with myself, Kyle, Trevor, going 1, 2, 3. That was a lot of fun, just kind of working in that race together, helping each other battle in those elements. And we had other guys kind of pick up some points there. So that was a lot of fun. We do the 5K. me and Trevor kind of take out, and the NDSU guys kind of sit on us. And, eventually it was, okay, we know they're going to go. We just don't know when. They go for it. I kind of just hang on, and I get third with a 15-0 whatever, which again, in 100-degree heat, I was pretty happy with that. And considering just a year ago, I was limping off the track in 20th place, to be third, and make the podium in 2 events was really exciting for me. We get back on the bus. I'm watching other conference results going into conference. I think I was 48th in the region. Get knocked out to 52nd or 53rd by the end of it. It was like, okay, well, with scratches, maybe I still get in. The list comes up initially. I get a call from Rod saying, "Hey, Chase, you're in." I got a voicemail. I remember I was watching Avengers Infinity War with a friend back home. Get the call, "Hey, Chase, you're in." I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." I didn't think a year ago that I'd be at the first round of nationals. Call him back, and then unfortunately he says, "Chase, I'm so sorry. The list, I came out, and you're actually not in." I ended up being the first guy out by less than a second. I think 0.5 is what it was, which in a 10K is, it's like not nothing. That's really close. And so I remember being pretty crushed by that. And so took a few weeks off, was bummed. But again, you just gotta look at it from the past, saying, okay, a year ago I was hobbling off the track, and I at the conference meet, and then this year I was just on the cusp of making it to nationals, and so that first round, and so which is not easy to do in itself in the West. And I could look at the East and say, okay, well, I would have got in at the East, so I'm in a good spot. And so, and just given how outdoor went, and only having 2 10Ks to do it at, it was good. And so, yeah, that's kind of the track season there in a nutshell.
So how do you think you take each of those years and try to consolidate those gains that you're making? You talk about the setbacks of not making it to the first round of the NCAAs, but how can you talk to us about how important it is to actually consolidate those gains that you're making each and every year, and having more of like a holistic approach to it?
Yeah. I think it's very easy to just be racing's unique because you run a time, and then of course it's okay, now I gotta get fast. You don't really get to just kind of enjoy them all. You do for a day, and then it's okay, I ran that, now I gotta get faster. I don't think you really get to take the time to just kind of soak it all in, and to appreciate it. And so of course, and even for me, every time I had a setback, at the time I looked at it and said, well, shoot, that's not what I wanted. I kind of failed in that regard. But then you got to look at it that distance running is a process. Nothing is, you don't, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a lot of, it can be days, weeks, months. A lot of it goes back to years. It's a lot of just consistency. And so just reminding myself to just take a step back, look at the whole year, reflect, appreciate the good things that went well, look at those and, okay, what went well, what factored into going well. And then it's the same thing on the flip side. You got to look at what went wrong. Okay, why did it go wrong? Injuries do happen. So it's just like, how can I prevent those injuries from happening in my case? Or it's just, like missing the 10K by a half second. I can't control that too much, especially when it's after the fact, when people were running it at conference. And I had to look back. I did what I could with Mount Sac, where it went out slow. I competed hard and still was able to PR after it going out in a 30-minute pace. And so, or, San Francisco, my second 10K ever on the track, just going out there and competing and seeing what I got. Just knowing that you gave it your all at the time, I think it's good to remind yourself too, because it doesn't, you got to do with what you have on any given day. If you can walk off the track or the cross country course, just knowing you gave it your all, I think that's pretty important too, to just remember that. And so, yeah, just kind of realizing where you started and then where you've gotten, and just looking at that, I think is huge. So.
No, thanks, Chase. I appreciate that. Now, the fall of 2018, you're in your third cross country season, coming off, the individual championship there at the Summit League. Do you want to take us through that 2018 fall and how that went down?
Yeah. So the summer, I didn't really change too much from the year prior. I remember talking with Rod, and just again, I was like, okay, if we can hold off doing the workouts until I get back, that would be great. And so we just kind of did the same thing that I did. Go to Hanover. Again, Sage is there, but this time he had just ran Grandma's half, was kind of getting into marathons. So he took some time off over the summer, was just getting back into it. And I was like, okay, well, I'll see what I can do on my own. We go out and run it. I ran a 1440 low by myself. And that's where I kind of knew, okay, I'm in better shape than I was last summer. So we kind of get into camp down in Marshall, Minnesota, running a lot of hills, just a big mileage. I was sick going into camp. Wasn't sleeping the greatest, not eating the best, because at cross country camp, we're not eating super great. Doing the runs with the guys. And I remember doing one of the hills near the end. I kind of tweaked my hip. I thought, well, that's a little weird. Kind of keep training. I get to get back to school, but get back to campus. I don't even think I did the first workout because my hip was just bothering me so much. And I talked to Ryan. I said, okay, it's the start of the year. Let's just not push this. Let's just get this over with right now. And so he agreed. Took a week or two, then just kind of slowly eased back into it. Hip was fine for the most part. I don't think I raced till Griac. Ran 25 flat, I think, at Griac, which is, again, pretty good for that course. I think it was 12th. So similar to the year prior, I was like, okay, 2 weeks off and I'm where I was last year. That's a good spot to be in. We get to pre-nationals. None of us did super well. I remember that was kind of we had a good group coming in. So we thought, okay, last year we didn't do too great, but I think this year we can make nationals as a team, kind of have that kind of where we were a few years ago, where it's like, okay, the talent is there, or maybe we can do it. So go out at Wisconsin pre-nationals, just kind of competing. I remember the pre-meet, I didn't feel too great. The hip was kind of coming back. Just kind of ran it. I think I was 69th and 24:40 something, which again is fast, but I think with running 24:10 the year prior, wasn't kind of looking at it like, okay, two different courses. I was like, okay, well, that wasn't the greatest. And again, I think I more so just looked at place. I was like, well, if I was 60 something last year, hopefully I'd be top 40 or 30 this year. Didn't do that. Hip kind of kept bothering me. I remember there were some workouts I was just kind of limping through, and I was like, well, I can't really take any more time off. We're kind of here. I was frustrated with it. I know, Rob was trying to help me work through that too. We get to conference in Omaha, do the pre-meet. I was limping so bad. I was in the back, just not even up there with the guys for pre-meet. We get back, I do some stretching, just kind of go through the night. Wake up still kind of limping around. We do the warm up. Rod comes up to me after the huddle and says, Chase, we don't need you to go. It doesn't have to be like last year. I mean, we were kind of in a more comfortable spot in conference where we could just pack run and we'd probably be okay winning. He said, Chase, you don't have to go out and lead this. You don't have to be a hero. You don't even have, you can just be a top 5 guy. And I was like, well, and I kind of thought about it, and I was like, well, I'm gonna kind of do what I did last year and see if it works. And so we get out, I take it out. It's just me, Kyle, and Eldon once again. I was not, I felt the pain kind of the whole time, but just was like, I got to do this. We've got to win this thing again. And so we kind of go around. We kind of are slowly pulling away us three. We get to 2K left, and Kyle's kind of a little further back. Eldon pulls ahead in front of me, and I try to go with him. Eldon Warner, he's got a great kick, so I was like, if I gotta at least try to stick in there. We get to a K left, and my leg and hip are they're fried at this point. I can't keep up with him. He gets ahead of me. He wins it. I come in second, and at the time I wasn't angry at all because I turn around and we have a bunch of guys in the top 10 and end up scoring pretty low in that meet. And so, getting a three-peat was exciting. And, coming into it, Rod and I both, which is how much I was limping, we're like, am I going to be able to even compete? I remember kind of talking with the alternates like, hey, I might not be able to do this thing, just to give you a heads up. And so that was good. Rod and I talked after, and he said, hey, if I can do that, maybe let's just cross train and just hope that the fitness kind of carries me. So I don't think I ran much at all before Bradley. Just got in the pool and aqua jogged, got on the Alter G treadmill, did that. And then we get to Bradley. We get into that big car accident beforehand with the semi that we still talk about today. I remember we hit a deer, get rear-ended by the semi, and then the girls ask us, is the deer okay? And I said, is the deer okay? Are we okay? So that was kind of a big shakeup. I was hoping maybe, if anything, that crash would maybe get my hip realigned, but it didn't. And so we're kind of all bonding in the hot tub the night before, and like, hey, we're just grateful to be alive after that accident. And so counting our blessings there, and like, hey, let's just go out and compete and see what happens. And we get to Bradley. It's muddy. It rained the night beforehand. Again, just going out with Kyle, kind of like we have been all these last few years, and just give it an honest effort. And he went, and I couldn't keep up with him. And I remember kind of falling back, and then Joe Miner was there. And so freshman, he was having a huge race. I kind of just made sure to stick in there with him, and just kind of encouraging him to kind of stay in it, because we were in the top 50, which is pretty big for a freshman. And so we just kind of worked together that whole race. And I think it went Kyle, myself, Joe, and then it was kind of there was a gap, and so we didn't do super hot as a team. Just kind of again falling short as a team, but the three-peat was kind of big for us. And for me, that was probably the most frustrating one. Is okay, I was injured all year after my best summer ever. Where do I kind of go from here, and how do I prevent this injury from happening again? So that one was again just kind of testing my patience that year. And that was one of those years where injuries kind of played a big part, and was kind of hard mentally and physically. And so yeah, that was a tougher year for me, at least in the fall, for cross country.
So coming off the 2018 Summit League Cross Country Championship, which was the team's third in a row, going into 2019, then can you talk to us about that transition, indoor and outdoor? You talked about that hip, right? So it was giving you a lot of problems at that point.
Yep. Yeah. So took a long break, of course, after cross country. Just try to get the body healthy again. Training was going well over Christmas break, doing workouts that again just kind of seemed like, okay, the fitness is still there. Don't worry too much about it. Just gotta kind of pick yourself up and get back in there for indoor. So get back to campus after Christmas break, have the first meet at home, and ran a 8:20, sub 8:30. I don't remember quite exactly what it was. So I was like, okay, that's a good starting point. We're right where we need to be. especially with indoor, just always kind of focusing on the 5K and just, indoor for me was just always kind of like, okay, let's see how fast I can run a 5K. And ideally, I was hoping for sub 14:20 because I never got to run that in outdoor the year prior just because we were chasing 10K times. So yeah, just did some workouts after that first meet. And then again, that hip kind of just comes back, hip and hamstring this time. And so I was like, oh gosh, well, I don't know what to do. And so I just kind of I was going to the trainers a lot. It was kind of maintaining sort of thing. Some days it felt good, some days not so great. Get to the U of M, run a mile. I ran a 4:28, I believe, or maybe it was a 4:30 something. I don't remember. Get off the track, and I just remember being pretty frustrated because, again, it was just that hip and hamstring really fired up, and it just didn't seem like it seemed like something was off, something wasn't working. I remember just talking to Rod after, and I said, it's something's up. And so did the long run the next day, and he kind of followed behind in the people mover, the van. The hip wasn't really working. My form was off, kind of the hip drop. I get into the van after maybe a mile, and we're just kind of like, well, we got to shut this down, and hopefully by indoor conference, we can be healthy and competing. And so kind of work with the trainers, get to a physical therapist, figure out the glutes and hips are super weak, not very doing much. And in running, if your hips and glutes aren't doing much, you are going to have quite a few problems, which, again, just from my background, not knowing too much about strength work and running and distance running and what kind of all needs to be strong. In high school, I never really worked on all of those deficiencies. So I was kind of learning about all this. This just was all new. Never really had problems with this before. So we just were finding that out. And so did a lot of work on that. There's a lot of, again, just either miles on the Ultra G treadmill or in the pool. Still tried to run a little bit before indoor conference, and it wasn't happening. So we just say, hey, indoors not going to happen. Let's just keep trying to get stronger, get healthy, and have a good outdoor season and try to make that first round this time. And so that was the year, obviously, that we won indoor conference. And so sitting on the sideline was tough. Just obviously trying to be a good teammate, trying to help out the younger guys in whatever way I can, just through advice or, anything I can do to help with that. But that was definitely one of the toughest meets. And, talking to alumni, we're back in the S-Jack. We weren't supposed to host, I believe, but we got it because USD was doing their renovations. And so that was pretty cool to have it back in the building. So having that atmosphere, but not being able to compete in it was tough. I remember the 5K to kind of clinch it all, and that we were saying in that position a few years ago, didn't work out for us, but this time it did. And again, obviously very happy for our teammates, very happy for the program. But I remember being on the backstretch, turning around as it all coming around, and just seeing everyone kind of cheer for them, and everyone's on their feet. And that's when we knew, hey, we won. It was exciting, but at the same time, it was tough because it's like I would give anything to just be competing in this meet. And so you're told you do contribute, and I hope I did in some ways, but at the time when you're not competing and have to watch that from the sidelines, it's difficult because you're not in those races to kind of help and contribute to the team score. So it is hard in that way, but it was really cool to at least witness and try to contribute in other ways to that indoor championship. So that was fun. But again, a big motivator to, hey, let's get healthy so I can be a part of those moments with those guys and, be a part of big things for this program. And so go out in spring break. We're down in Florida with all the cross country guys. Gabe Peters has a house down there. And so you go through that. I start running again. I'm running 40 miles a week. kind of getting healthy, no hip problems, no hamstring, just kind of running. We get back to campus on the treadmill, start feeling something in my shin. Felt similar to, having one stress fracture. You kind of notice it again. I didn't want to totally throw it in. I was like, okay, maybe it is just shin splints or something. Kind of work with the trainers for a bit, do a double, kind of still feel it, but it's less pain. We get to a workout. I think John just trying to get ready for 10Ks. Rod had 24 by 400. Not super anything crazy, just getting volume, doing it at working out at 10K pace. Started doing it. I'm on my own. I'm kind of back from the other guys because they're going faster. Still feeling my shin. And when I get through, I think 4 to 6 reps, I'm starting to go backwards in pace. I think I was starting to go 5-10 pace. And I said, and then the shin really started to flare up. And I said, this does not seem right at all. So I stop it. I go up to Rod and I say, Rod, I think I have a stress fracture. And so obviously not the news he wants to hear, not the news I want to hear. I get into the trainers. They kind of do some tests. And I'm like, well, we're not sure, but let's get an MRI. And just having one before, I kind of knew. I kind of left, talked to Rod for a bit on the bleachers. I kind of cry it out because I know what is probably going to happen. We're just like, well, let's cross train until you get the MRI, and get the MRI, comes back, stress reaction. Kind of knew, I already had the fears. I got the boot right away. I said, okay, we don't know what it is. Just give me the boot. I get in the boot. And then that kind of throws everything out the window for outdoor. I knew I wasn't going to come back and be able to compete for that. And so just kind of do school for the rest of the semester. Rod, he's just always kind of looking out for me. He said, hey, I know you got coaching aspirations. Why don't you just help out with practice? So, went on workout days just to help take splits and just help with, younger guys where I could, or just give advice where I could. Just was able to still stay involved with the team that way. But yeah, didn't get to see the outdoor track that season. So that was tough, especially just with cross country, having the injury, indoor, not being able to running 2 meets for indoor and then out for injuries. Finally get that hip and glute problem under control where I think, okay, I'm going to be back to my normal self, and then getting a stress reaction, something totally different than what I've been going through, and having to end the year that way was tough.
Yeah. So you head then into summer coming, out of that injury. I mean, that's healed up. And then at what point do you actually resume training in 2019 at the summertime?
Yeah. So that summer was definitely even tougher than the summer coming off of my first year in college. Get the boot off, try to run a little bit, I think the first or second week of June. And just still you can still feel the pain of it. Still felt like it was there. And I text Rod and I say, Rod, pain's still there. What should I do? He recommended getting another MRI. Get an MRI at my local hospital. Results come back that the stress reaction is still there, and it's actually gotten wider. And I remember being pretty frustrated because I thought, how could my stress fracture healed faster than this? And so I was like, doctor, what do you think? When can I get back? He said, I don't know. I just know you can't run right now. And so I remember leaving the doctor's office pretty frustrated. And at that point, the injuries kind of took a mental toll, and I was debating just quitting. And I said, I've got 1 year left. I'm about to get into student teaching. If I can't get healthy and contribute, what's the point? I've kind of been out for so long. So I kind of was like, I've done some big things. It's not anything to I can hold my head high still if it ends here. I talked to Rod a little bit. It's like, tears, I'm frustrated. This is what I'm thinking. He calls me up during the NBA draft. I do remember that because I answered the phone and he says, "Hey Chase, how you doing?" I said, "I'm good. Just watching the Wolves draft." And he was, of course, watching the NBA draft too. So we get talking, and he just kind of telling me, "Hey, don't quite give up yet because it's definitely not over." He didn't say, "Hey, you can't quit," but he wanted me to just think about it. And so I was like, "Yeah, I'll definitely just keep kind of thinking on it." Just continued to cross train on the bike. Anna Bears, or GA, was really big and just helped me cross train. She gave me a whole workout plan every few weeks, very detailed, what to do. And I saw she had success with other athletes on that cross training program. And she was also very, very good at helping me just kind of stay in it, just saying, "Hey, don't give up quite yet, because I think there's more to do." And so then after a while, I'm getting blood tests, everything's coming back normally, and we're in July, and they say, your calcium's good, any sort of blood level stuff, all that stuff is good. There's no deficiency on that end. And so it just was a delayed healing stress reaction. I get another MRI at the end of July, still just biking. The MRI comes back good, and they finally give me the green light to maybe run a little bit. We do a whole walk jog plan the first, so I start that in August, continue to just keep doing the biking on top of that. And then I still think I didn't go to team camp that year, which was hard. It was out in Rapid City, somewhere I wanted it to be all of my college career, because we went out there in high school for a cross country camp, and that was a lot of fun. And so, yep, the choice was kind of, okay, do I go to Rapid City, where I was assured there was some cross training options, but I was really liking the bike, and I felt like I worked the hardest on the bike. Luckily, I love my summer job with coaching youth track and the kids club that I've been working at for a few years at that point. So I said, okay, I'm going to stay back, make some money, and just kind of keep working on the bike, because I can't run anyway. So just kind of stayed back, didn't go to team camp, kept doing the walk, jog, and biking. And then we get back, and I'm finally able to start running and doing more consistent, just 20 miles a week. Getting on the Ultra G more, kind of using that more as a tool. I think I was on that all of that cross country season. Didn't know, obviously, just with being close to qualifying in national meets in the past, wanted to just keep sights on that goal, but also just I had to kind of reason with myself that this first few races might be tough. Ended up racing at Briar Cliff, which is a kind of a gravel cross country course. Ran a 25:30. Felt like, okay, I've been running 20 miles a week in cross training. That was kind of hard. We get to pre-nats, I think it's at Indiana, which is a tougher course. Ran 25:10, was pretty hard on myself. Just not liking where I was, but again, not seeing the bigger picture. We get to, I think at that point then is conference, and we have everyone's running well. We're talking about, hey, maybe we can perfect score this year. And so I remember talking to Rod and Coach Underwood, and the big thing going to that, I just kind of talked to them. I said, I'm only running 40 to 50 miles a week and cross training. I'm not doing too much. I think, we all kind of, what helped me is they kind of said, we've got guys. It doesn't matter where you are, as far as, in the past, I was kind of leaned on as, hey, you got to be up there. You just said, go out there, have fun, race for your team, race for the guys, and just whatever happens. And then just focused on having your best race at regionals. And so we get out there at Fargo, and we're going. I think I tried to lead the first loop, and then we kind of break away with a pack of 6, and just kind of keep pressing from there. And the last kind of couple K, we got myself, Micah, Joe, and Lucas, and that was a lot of fun, because it's 3 guys that have never won a conference championship before, and as far as individually goes, and they're just competing with them, and then going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then turning around, and I see got guys 5 and 6 right after me. was a lot of fun. And just kind of seeing Joe Miner, who I ran at the regional race with last year, winning, and then Micah having a really big year, getting second, and then Lucas, who kind of always says I'm not a cross country guy, getting third. Those three guys all having a really good conference race was a lot of fun. And then obviously just perfect scoring and being one of the few teams in the country to do that. That was a lot of fun too. And so we did that, get to regionals down in Oklahoma Stillwater. Definitely the toughest cross country course I have ever competed on. And so we go out there again, just I was ready to give it all I got, and this was my last cross country year. So I was like, let's see what I can do. And just went out there, and again, we kind of had aspirations of, if everything goes well, maybe we make it. And I think we were even shooting for like 5th and 6th. That would have been great. We go out there. I remember leading the first K or two, and I was like, okay, I've never gotten the line this well. And so kind of knew, okay, I'm not going to win this race by any means. I've only been running 40 to 50 miles a week, and I hadn't ran all summer. We get out there, we just compete. I remember just kind of taking that first 5K kind of conservative. Once I kind of led the K, I was like, okay, I don't need to lead anymore. This isn't going to work. Kind of let the big dogs go ahead of me and do their thing. Just kind of hang on, and going through 5K. I didn't know how many guys were ahead of me. And then Rod's kind of yelling at us, hey, we can do this thing. We can make it. And so I didn't know where anyone else was. I saw Joe and Micah kind of up there doing their thing, not too far ahead. So I was like, okay, I just got to work towards Micah and Joe. And so kind of keep passing people, get through the line. And I was like, I got to be close to all region. And then I found out I was 32nd, and that's the highest I'd ever placed at regionals. And I thought, wow, I had, just a few months ago, I was thinking about stepping away altogether, and I come away with my best regional finish. And, it might not have been, with a full summer, heck, maybe I would have qualified. But at the same time, again, just looking at the situation for what it was, I didn't have a summer. And so to come away with 32nd, at least individual, that was pretty exciting for me. And then just to kind of count where we were, and then end up hearing that we were 4th, that's the highest that we've ever finished as a team in program history. And so that was really exciting. And so even if it didn't end, again, not ending how I wanted it to at a national meet, to be a part of that best finish in program history was something really exciting for me. Coming in, I wanted to be a guy that would hopefully help us get to nationals as a team. And so being a part of the program the team to be the highest finish at regionals in program history was, something really special for me coming in, and kind of seeing where our program was to where we were 5 years later was a lot of fun. And to be a part of that was good. So again, even if cross country that year didn't go as I wanted it to, just kind of seeing the gains that I made individually as well as the gains we made as a program was really cool.
Yeah, I know that had to be special for you as a team to finish 4th overall. But, one thing you probably not aware of, Chase, is necessarily, how inspiring, faced with all the setbacks that you had to go through to get to that point, right? To be 32nd at the regional meet. I mean, it really, is an example of how big your really heart is, and, how you just wanted to be, do the best you can for, really for the love of your teammates. And it's just, with the way you tell that, man, it's just really, it's going to be helping a lot of other people, when they're only, coming out of an injury and just running, just getting back to it. There's still an opportunity for you to do some amazing things. That's just really cool. So there you are, the 2019 season, memorable season is in the books, and there we are now into a new year, 2020, right? And would you please kind of take us through, from your perspective, what was this last, kind of, really impactful year in terms of having a global pandemic and everything?
Yeah. So for me, that 5th year was very unique because I was also student teaching. In fall, I was doing it twice a week. So, I mean, it was part of my cross country season, but not super intensive. And then the second semester was full-time student teaching. Indoor, I didn't get the medical red shirt, and was kind of frustrated with that. But so I had to compete unattached. I think I ran 3 meets. The first 2 were a couple of 3Ks. I think I ran 8:40 something, and then again 8:39. And I just felt kind of tired, kind of worn down. Again, still just, I think, building fitness from the year prior. I mean, I was out from January to August, so it's a 8-9 month kind of layoff, and even before that, just kind of banged up, not having consistency. And so that was kind of frustrating. Indoor was just not going well at all. Those first few 3Ks, kind of had one foot in the door, one foot out. I was like, well, maybe the injuries have just kind of caught up, and with student teaching, maybe I'm just, I can't juggle it all. And so 5K comes around and Rod says, just let other guys lead and just kind of have fun with, kind of get that motivation and desire back. I think the competitive fire was lacking a little bit, and I think Rod kind of noticed that, and I noticed it too. And so we go out and run the 5K, and I just kind of sit back, and we go through, and I ended up running a 14:40, and I thought, that's not too bad with the race strategy, just kind of sitting back and then really letting loose that last mile. And so that kind of helped me get my competitive fire back. We were doing some workouts, and then I remember doing a 1200 workout and finishing pretty quick, where it looked like, okay, the 10K fitness is there where I can end this pretty well. And I was just like, don't give up, because this ending can be pretty good. Because again, just being so close to NCAA's in the past, the goal was obviously to make it in that 10K. And then we started getting the news of COVID kind of being a thing, and just with being a history teacher, we do current events sometimes. And I remember hearing about it in the fall, through students and stuff, and you're not really thinking, you kind of think of it, at least for me, last pandemic, I think, was the swine flu or H1N1, where it wasn't, things weren't shutting down or anything sort of like that. And so kind of get the news that conferences are thinking, hey, no spring sports. NBA says, hey, we're not going to have fans in. Or NCAA basketball is thinking, hey, we'll have the tourney, but no fans. I think this is a little weird. This is not anything that we've had to deal with before. And we get to spring break and everyone leaves. I have to keep doing student teaching. And so I kind of get the news that some conferences like the Ivy League are not going to do any more sports in the winter, and they're done with the spring. And then the Patriot League, I think, was the next one to fall. And I remember texting Rod, and I said, hey, Rod, I know. And he's out in spring break down in Louisiana, New Orleans. And so I said, hey, Rod, don't mean to bug you on spring break, but as a senior, I kind of got to ask, is this going to affect my last season here? And then we get he texted me back. He says, Chase, I don't know. I'll call you later this week or something. And so, and I think later in the day, then everything just gets shut down. I think NCAA says no more March Madness, spring sports are canceled. And that was pretty crushing. It just felt like it was taken away from me, and I had no choice in that. And so I was like, is this really how it ends? And I remember getting home and parking my car after school and just kind of crying. And I was like, and then I remember talking to my teacher the next day. I was like, hey, can I help out with track? Because I don't have any spring sport. And he's like, yeah, we can get you with that. And then we get the news that schools are shutting down and everything's shutting down. And so I was like, well, I guess some student teaching is no longer something I can focus on. And so even that gets kind of taken away from me. And I remember having a school meeting say, hey, get ready. This is pretty big. We haven't experienced anything like this. We might be out of school for a while. And even that was just shocking. I was like, this is not anything I've ever experienced. And then sure enough, we're out of school. And then guys aren't coming back from spring break. It gets extended out, and then eventually everything's moved online. And so here I am kind of stuck in Brookings while everyone's out doing different things, and we're all kind of experiencing this pandemic in a different way, kind of isolated. And so, yeah, that was very, very unique. But yeah, that's just kind of that transition to the pandemic, I suppose.
Yeah. So then you were able to resume classes in the fall of 2020. And can you talk about what that was like? I mean, obviously South Dakota went a different way, right, than the rest of the country, with allowing certain amount of classes, and then there was protocols in place and trying to keep everything maintained in terms of social distancing, but also understanding that this is an opportunity for students still to learn. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So yeah, I remember kind of getting our eligibility reinstated, and I remember talking to Rod. I said, if we get our eligibility back, you can count me in being back. The pandemic, in a weird way, really kind of gave that fire back, because I thought, well, okay, if I have an extra year now where I can get healthy and get back to where I was, it was kind of like where I had that 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Then I was able to solely focus back into running. I said, okay, I can just do a slow build through the summer and get back to where I was, and can kind of just worry about not having to race into shape or getting the workouts in. I can just kind of build that base back. And so we get through the summer still not quite knowing what. I mean, I came back, but at the time we didn't know if cross country was going to happen, if winter sports were going to happen, or if even outdoor track. We still thought, who knows, like we could still be in a lockdown, sports aren't happening. But yeah, we get back to the fall, obviously, and things are definitely different. I took a job at Lake Preston, where I student taught, was a part-time in-house sub. So I had a job at this point, kind of working through that, was in graduate school doing classes, and on top of that, training. So that was kind of unique to me. Not really having to do a job in college, but this year trying to do that and just kind of stay in the education field. And then the protocols were different, where we had to, wear masks into the S-Jack. And there was a period where we couldn't even get into the S-Jack. Couldn't see trainers as much unless it was urgent. And then just had to be, obviously with the social distance in play, and just keeping track of that. I remember I had a kind of a COVID scare, where I kind of got symptoms and got tested and was negative, but was out for a few days. So even, getting sickness, was kind of, you didn't want to get other people sick in case you did have it, and shut the whole program down. Luckily for us, we didn't have any hiccup like that in the fall. But yeah, just trained, didn't do too many races, just with, limited opportunities around the country, and not being able, we didn't have an actual, I didn't have a cross country season just without eligibility, but even the guys that did, the whole NCAA didn't have cross country, obviously. So they kind of traveled around and did meets, and then was a lot of time trials. I remember I did the Jack 15. We did a indoor 10K and an outdoor 5K with Augustana. And the Jack 15 was kind of one I had to fight with Rod a little bit, because he wanted me to do an 8K. And me being a stubborn 6-year, I said, well, I've done enough 8Ks. I want to try a Jack 15. And just kind of, because I had aspirations of doing marathons and half marathons after. So I kind of want to see what it was about. Rod let me do it, and it went pretty well, running an hour 18 solo, and being top 5 in that. And that was just a lot of fun. Marty, you were there, so it's good to see you. And it was good to just kind of get a different race distance that I had not been used to. Rod told me beforehand, just go out in 520s and kind of see how that feels. Went out in a 5:15, I think, so I slowed it down just a little bit, and then got through 5 miles. I said to myself, this feels great. Just kind of kept moving down, and eventually, I think my last 8K was 24:40. Had a couple of sub 5s in there, and I was like, I got done, and I think I had 5:08 pace on my watch. And I didn't know how good that actually was until I started talking to people that have ran longer distance races, and said that was a pretty good race. And so was excited with that. Knew I was kind of getting fitness again. We do the outdoor 5K with Augustana. Rod was thinking Josh, Joe, myself could run under 14:20. Again, still didn't have a lot of confidence back because I hadn't raced a 5K in a few years. Just kind of went out there, traded leads with Josh and Joe, and we all helped each other run a 14:17, all three of us. So that was a lot of fun. And then I knew, okay, the fitness is back. We do a 10K indoor on the track, 30 laps. Lucas takes us out running for 30 flat pace. Go around 5K. I went through in 14:57. At that point, there was no one with me. It felt good, and I thought if I can run sub 30 in the S-Jack solo, I think that's a good spot to be in the fall. I think I ran 29:52 or 53. I joke with Rod that's got to be a facility record, and they should put it on the record board there, even if it's a little,
absolutely.
Yes. They do a little Post-it note, and I think Rod laughed at that one. I don't think he's gonna do it, but so that was fun. And then being a 10K guy, just getting kind of confidence in that 10K distance back really helped me. And so the fall was very unique, but just making the best of what we had in that moment was kind of what we had to do. And so, yeah, it was a good fall to kind of build that confidence back and just kind of know that, okay, it hasn't all left. It just, again, kind of what we talked about earlier is just it's a process built in not just hours or days, but it can be months or years where you kind of got to build that back. So, and, people go through peaks and valleys. Sometimes they're not running the greatest for a few years, and then they have one of the biggest races PR, and then they kind of string together more performances like that. And so I was kind of learning that through the fall as well.
Okay, Chase, you picked up some momentum coming out of the Jack 15 and then setting the facility record there at the S-Jack for the 10,000 meters. So, even if it's never run again, right, you can always tell your kids 20, 30 years from now, I hold the facility record for the 10K in the S-Jack. So that's actually, no Post-it note needed. We'll get it. Somehow we'll affix some sort of solid, name onto that.
I'll take it. So, if not, I'll have it. So, unless they run it again and someone beats it, but then they can just take the Post-it note down. But
that's awesome. The 2021 season, kicked off. Obviously, you didn't have indoor eligibility, but you used that to kind of maintain and build some momentum there. You did some unattached races, and then take us through that process, but also how it led you to the most memorable outdoor season of your entire career.
Yeah. So indoor, just knowing kind of in the past, it kind of seemed like if I raced too much, that's where the injuries would kind of pop up. And working out in the indoor S-Jack, I think just it's great, but if I'm on the track too much, I think my body too can sometimes get a little wonky. So we were able to learn from the past there. And so we didn't do anything too intense, just kind of kept maintaining and building on base. And then also just doing more 10K oriented workouts, considering that, the ultimate goal was to make it to nationals in 10K and hopefully making it to the final round. And so just kind of thinking in that mindset. So, not too much of an emphasis on indoor, but just competing when the opportunities came up, because I think the whole message throughout the year was a year ago or, months ago, when everything was shut down, we didn't even know if we would have these opportunities again. So just to have these, and, we were able to cherish it more than in the past, because, in history, we never had something like this where it was just taken away, where you just can't do it. And so we were definitely cherishing kind of any time we were able to step on the line, because who knows if, COVID kind of shuts down the world again and what that would look like. So just kind of doing that, getting out there, competing, ran a 3K. Maybe I frustrate Rob with this, but I never was never really loved the 3K. 3K is in college, even it can kind of turn into just, it's a weird distance where it's longer, but it's still faster. And I don't have the best kick. And so I just can't keep up when the pace gets, for me, a 3K, I have to run it consistently at that pace. And a lot of times it would go out a little slower, and then I'd have to kind of kick it in at the end, and just couldn't do that yet. So I ran 8:20 something, still good, but I remember Rod just kind of saying, "Hey, you gotta, thanks for doing the 3K. I don't know what your deal is with not liking it, but I'm glad he put me in there though, because it was good to get moving again and kind of seeing what I could actually do in a 3K. And so I was pretty close to, I think it was a few seconds off my PR. And so that was good. Again, just knowing it was in a good spot. We do the 5K, run that, and ended up running 14:24, I believe, unattached. Got second after, again, kind of leading most of the race. And so, again, just kind of doing a lot of the work and running 14:20 low. Knew I was in a good spot, not too far off that 14:17, which the goal was to run hopefully 14:15 or faster and get the indoor record, but didn't work out. But again, not too far off where I wanted to be. And so, yeah, just that was kind of what the indoor, I think those were the only two races that I had indoor. So it was kind of a more conservative approach, but again, just making the most of opportunities when they came.
So then coming out of that 2-race indoor season for you unattached, what was the first race that you kicked off your outdoor season now with your final year of eligibility?
Yeah. So outdoor again, just, Rod told me just be ready for wherever we can go, because obviously the way California, the state of things there, not letting anyone in. Mount Sac and San Francisco, the two kind of usual suspects, weren't an option. And so we were kind of thinking Texas for a while had a qualifier, but it didn't end up working out as an NCAA meet, just with rules with events and how many events there needs to be, and it ended up being more of a pro meet. So that was kind of a thought, maybe running down there. Josh and I, he would do the steeple, I'd do the 10. So there was that kind of thought process. Ended up not being an option. So then Raleigh relays, I think we got the week before we found out we were in. And so Rod asked me, "You ready for a 10K?" And I said, "Yeah, I've been training all year for it. So let's see what we can do." And so get out to Raleigh. Josh runs super well in the 5K. Tom had a pretty good 15. Joe, didn't have the 5K he wanted, but, seeing those guys kind of compete again, just kind of being in that outdoor atmosphere was good. Was super excited to get into it. Raleigh the next night when I competed in the 10K, I remember being super humid, super hot. And again, I had kind of that track record of, and I felt like by then I kind of shown I can compete in the heat and humidity. So I didn't really kind of let that thought kind of slip in my head. The humidity was so bad that you could just see kind of it was just rising off the track, kind of the heat, just rising, even at, I think it was 10 p.m. at that point. I remember my stickers weren't even sticking on to my jersey or my shorts, just kind of falling off. Had the next percents on, and then changed to the dragonflies because Rod was kind of concerned of the slipping on the track because it was so humid. It was just wet. Get out there in the 10K. We go through the first 2 mile in 9:20s. And at that point I could feel it already felt super difficult, which I knew it shouldn't have, but just that's kind of how I was feeling in that moment. Got pretty tough. I went through the 5K in 14:50. So again, not too far off PR pace, but at that point, the field was so, competitive that I was in no man's land with the 14:50. And so at that point, just being in no man's land and how I was feeling, it was just tough to kind of hang in there. 10K is very mental. And so when you kind of slip mentally, physically, the pain, you start to notice the pain more physically. caught up with one guy, and I thought, okay, finally I have someone to run with that we can keep going. Once I passed him, I thought he'd go with, he actually slowed down and really dropped off. So again, just by myself, I think with 2K left or even sooner than that, I was getting lapped, and just not at that point, it was just hard. And so I think I finished with 30:36, which was my slowest 10K on the track. And so I took that pretty hard, kind of once again, just kind of beat myself up. Rod, talked to him after, and the big thing was just we didn't know where the next opportunity would be, especially in a field like that where it was kind of, and at that point it was top 32 make the first round. And so just didn't know where my next opportunity would be. Was pretty hard on myself, and just again, you kind of, that self-doubt can kind of creep in where it's like, maybe I don't have it. Maybe I don't have what I thought I did. And so took it kind of hard for a few weeks. And then kind of had a glute injury kind of creep up, had to take some time off. Took only a week off, a lot of biking. Thankfully got that under control. That was kind of concerned just with injuries in the past. Was supposed to run at Drake for that 5K. I didn't, just because I was concerned about my glute, and just kind of thinking, okay, just got to be ready for the next 10K. Sounded like it was going to be at Drake anyway. Worked out a little bit right before Drake. Just got into it. We get there. I've never been at Drake relays before, so the drum line was pretty cool. That got me pretty excited. Talking to Rod beforehand, the strategy just was I would probably be up there leading with it, but just don't take the lead. Let someone else do it and just kind of see what we go out in. Ideally, hopefully 1440 to 1445, and then just start working down. Thankfully, I had Nadir Youssef there, who runs for Minnesota Moorhead, All-American in Division II. We just kind of worked together with that. He led most of it. I tried to help where I could. And again, just with my 30:36, I didn't know how confident I was in leading that race anyway, especially when we were on pace for 29:20. I kind of hung back in fifth. We went through the 5K in 14:42, something like that. Just kind of kept running with those guys. As guys kind of slowly moved back, I went around, and then it was just Nadir and I for most of the race. Last mile, we're kind of on that 29:20 pace. And so I just knew, okay, I either got to hang in here or just keep going. And so I just kind of took it lap by lap, and then finished with a 29:18 or 19, 29:19. Was super excited about that. Just finally getting my first official PR in however many years. Was just super excited to share that with my teammates and with Rod, and just, Rod knowing kind of all that I've been through, and just mentally, physically, and him to just continue to believe in me. It was really cool to share that with him. Go do a 5K in Grand Valley. Wanted to run sub 14. Ran in a heat with 30 guys. So that kind of got hectic, and ran 14:10 a week off a 10K. And so that was really exciting. And then get to conference, and I was 48th there for a while again. Get knocked out again at conference, kind of a repeat of 3 years ago. Get second in the 10K. I didn't do too well in the 5K. Find out that I didn't make it into the regional meet, but just 29:10, usually that was the first time 29:10s didn't get you in. And so that's kind of said a lot of where the West is and where the NCAA is heading. So it was tough not to get to the regional meet, or the first round, with that being the goal. But I definitely wasn't upset with just having the second fastest time in school history, and finally being able to PR again. And just all we went through with COVID, I was just appreciative of having the opportunity to come back and to compete, and to just end my career out the way I wanted it to, instead of quitting back when I felt like quitting in the summer of 2019, or walking away after COVID, and just kind of sticking with it, and just kind of seeing what I could do in the process. So yeah, that's kind of how outdoor played out.
Yeah, Chase, my hat's off to you, man. Just to have that ability to stay with it and really where you had options, right? You could have said you could have walked away. Could you talk to us about what's your view of Rod Haven's impact and the style of coaching on the SDSU program? He seems to have a way of bringing out the best in his runners and just everybody as people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just I could go on about Rod. He was very impactful for, not even just me as a runner, but me as a person. I love the energy. I mean, there was one workout I remember where he likes to give me a hard time about the Timberwolves and about the Vikings. And so to if some future recruit is watching this, if you're a Minnesota sports fan, just watch out, because he does not have mercy on you for that. And so I remember one workout, he would be yelling 400s over the speaker. He said, "Chase, run a 68 like Andrew Wiggins' free throw percentage." And so even there, just giving me a hard time on that. And so I liked that he would come in and he could joke. It wasn't always just business with him. Another thing was Rod's very realistic and with goals. And so when he tells you can do something or what time you can run, with all the experience that he has, he's not just blowing smoke. He's confident in what you can do. And so when he has that confidence in you, it's very easy to buy into that and just have that confidence kind of within yourself. Very knowledgeable about the sport, was able to help me a lot with my weaknesses, gave me a lot of stretches, gave me a lot of core work, kind of helped me through that. And then just anytime I was down mentally or, just kind of going through things, whether like the passing of my grandmother or injuries or just anything that was going on in life, he was able to kind of be there and help me get through. And so that was, just running aside, I was very appreciative of that. First few years, I always went into his office and just talked to him. Sometimes I was in there for a couple of hours even. We would just kind of talk about whatever. And so Rod and I had a very good relationship that, I was looking for that in a coach because Coach Greeno and Coach Crocker, those were guys I would turn to just talk about life and just kind of get guidance. And I could go into their classroom and I'd be in there for an hour or two just talking to them. And so having that kind of coach and athlete relationship is huge. And so I'm glad I was able to have that with Rod too. And another thing too is it wasn't always running. He allowed us to take advantage outside of sports. He was very, supportive of me going to Peru for a mission trip. Not a lot of coaches would let you go do that for a week. So I appreciated that he allowed me to do that. Or going to, I went to a Catholic kind of conference for a week for right before indoor season started, and it made training tough. And he was very open in allowing me to do that. And then he, guys had gone and done study abroad or taken advantage of those opportunities. So he knows that this is kind of the time of our lives to go experience everything, not just running, but everything that college has to offer as far as academics go or other kind of interests, people with faith or people with clubs. So he's very supportive of that as well, which I think is huge. He's very invested in you as more than just an athlete, but as you are as an individual in person and seeing you grow through that process. So, yeah.
No, thanks so much, Chase, for coming to the South Dakota State University and really just putting your heart into everything that you did there. And what's on the future for you, or what's on the horizon for you? Are you going to keep running?
Yeah. Right now I'm going to be a training partner with Minnesota Distance Elite, and so obviously Joel runs for him. Josh Yeager is also joining the team. So few Jackrabbits I'll have around, but it'll be good to train with a group. I'm gonna train for marathons, half and full, especially after that Jack 15. I know post collegiate league track meets get harder to find and get into. So maybe just kind of seeing what I can do on the roads. And he had talked about getting back on the track for 5 and 10Ks. So hopefully still doing that. I'd love to run sub 14 and sub 29 because I think just given my fitness last spring, I think it was there. It was just with the limited opportunities, it's hard to find. And then, yep, I'll be, as we talked about, coaching the STMA boys cross country. Really excited for that. We've been doing summer runs already, getting around 20 guys on average. Hoping that it's a team now that we have 3 classes, STMAs and the top class in Minnesota, AAA. So that'll be a new kind of transition for them. So helping them through that transition. Aspirations is to hopefully make it to state as a team. We had a tougher year last year, but with COVID, it's hard to tell, especially with high school athletes, how that affected them. And I know Minnesota, you could only run in tries and duels, and you were racing in waves. So it was really hard to look at times and all that and see how this team actually is. So on paper, it's a good team that I think, if the boys buy in, I think we'll at least be up there, hopefully contending for a trip to state. If not, hopefully sending a few individuals. So that's exciting. Being back with my alma mater is fun. And then just working for, as far as the summer goes, I work at the kids club still. Gonna sub this year, unless a full-time teaching job opens up that I can apply to for middle school or high school social studies. And then I'm coaching the youth running club still. We have 20 kids. And then I started a youth track camp club about 5 or 6 years ago. And I started maybe with like 10, 2nd through 6th grade. And then this year I have 90 kids.
Wow.
So
90 kids. That's awesome.
It's really been growing. It's really exciting. I have a lot of kids that love to just come out, and we do sprints, distance, hurdles, throws, jumps. We do everything with them. I've got great helpers over the years that have helped me with that. So continuing to see that grow, I think would be fun. If I can get over 100 plus next year, that'd be awesome. I don't know how many track camps there are in Minnesota with those kind of numbers. And the fact that it's just been growing over the years has been really exciting for me. So a lot of coaching stuff, still going to be running. Obviously with running, I would hope to one day, the goal now is to hopefully qualify for the Olympic trials and the marathon. Just seeing how guys who have qualified that, you don't have to be a knockout star in college in the marathon. A lot of people, that's just their distance, and you don't have that distance in college. So just kind of seeing what I can do in that distance and just seeing where that goes, I think would be a lot of fun. So still just curious about the process and seeing what I can do. I think Rod always kind of quoted that, that was kind of a quote that I remember from Rod, is just, he'd always say, I hope you're here because you're curious about the process and seeing what you can do. And so, I just want to kind of keep going with the process and just seeing where that leads me. And I think there's still more in the tank for me. So.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Chase, for joining us. It's so cool to hear your stories and your insight, and certainly your passion for this sport that we both really love. And the kids that you're going to inspire coaching, you're really going to make an impact. You can just hear it when you talk about, what you're going to do with them. And it's, once again, thanks for all what you put into the program, and you made the culture so much better. And anytime you want to come out for a visit here in Rapid City, you're more than welcome. And my best to you, and Godspeed to you. Okay.
Thank you, Marty. Yeah, it's always good talking to you. And since I missed my cross country camp trip out to Rapid City, I'm sure I'll want to get out in the area soon enough. So I'll let you know.
Okay, you'll go easy on me, right? My conversation pace, not yours.
Yeah, definitely. I've been running it easy with the high school boys, and so until they want to go out blazing the last mile and make it hard on me. But I gotcha.
That's awesome. Thanks for joining us this week on the Pivotal Running Podcast. Make sure to visit our website, pivotalrunning.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Spotify, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or if you simply would tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. Thanks.